Hey friends, welcome back. Just Christina here, and today I just want to share a couple of things about the brain with you. So the human brain is very, very fascinating, but it remains a mystery, unfortunately, to a lot of people who really don't understand it. It is very complex, but if you break it down into the subparts of regions, it's very quite easy to understand. So there's two things that I want to talk to you about briefly. One of them is the cerebellum. And the cerebellum sits in the back of the brain, so it's posterior, and it sits next to the cerebrum, next to a couple of very key functions in the brain. So the cerebellum is round, and it almost looks like coral, like white branched sea coral. So if you were to look in the center of the cerebellum, it would be full and packed with tissue, and it would be very coral looking if you were to do a dissection of it. And this area, like I said, it sits next to the cerebrum, but the cerebrum is responsible for like motor function, smooth speech, things like that. And, you know, speech, it is also multi-compartmentalized. So you have Broca's and Wernicke's, so you have your internal dialogue and your spoken dialogue. And there are some disorders that come along with that, like aphasia. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about the cerebellum. And as you drink alcohol, your cerebellum starts to shrink. And so that nice, tightly packed coral-looking structure starts to get voids in between those structure. And essentially what it does is it affects your balance, your speech, and a lot of other, you know, that's why you can't stand up straight or walk straight or talk straight when you're drinking. So it's food for thought, because eventually when you do so much damage in that area of your brain, you don't regain it. So when you're older, you might start talking with a slur. You might feel like you have vertigo 24/7 that never goes away. And it's all because of that region of the brain. So one interesting thing with aphasia, though, that is a situation where you cannot find the words that you're looking for. And we've all been there. We've all had mild aphasia where we've tried to search for the right words, or we're stumbling over the things that we want to say. But there's some pretty severe cases out there where the verbal dialogue in your brain does not match the spoken dialogue that you're trying to say. So there are people who are suffering greatly that, you know, their internal dialogue might want to tell you that they went to the store and they bought taco shells, okay? But what they're actually saying and speaking, the words out of their mind, out of their mouth, are not the same thing. So that instead of saying, I went and bought taco shells, even though that's what they're trying to say, and they know that's what they're trying to say, of sound reason, the words out of their mouth are 15 purple unicorns shoes. You know, just something very odd, and it doesn't fit the dialogue internally that's coming out spoken. So there's a lot of really interesting brain disorders like that. There's aphasia. There's another one called prosopagnosia. A lot of people suffer from that. It's a facial recognition disorder, and they have to pick up on other visual cues. You know, they'll look at hairstyle and clothes and perfume and a lot of other visual cues to help them identify the person. But if you change your wardrobe and your hairstyle, they're not going to recognize you. And this is even with family members. So the human brain is very, very interesting. You know, there's another disorder that's slightly less common than those, and it's called Prader-Willi syndrome. And that's where people are so insatiably hungry that they'll just eat themselves to death. And they have no ability to stop that urge of control. So these are people who are currently getting clinical help that have to have their food locked up from them, or they will just eat continuously. So there's a lot of disorders out there that affect the brain, and even deja vu is a little micro seizure in your brain. So here's the final tip that I want to share with you. And this is silly, but I think we've all been there. So when you really, really, really have the urge to go to the bathroom, let's say you have to pee and you're out somewhere and you cannot take another step because you are going to pee your pants. And you can laugh all you want because this is silly, but it's true. This is something that we can put to use in our daily life. So what you do is you literally grab the backs of your knees, So you take your knee and you just grab the back of your knee and you squeeze. And what this does is it interrupts the signal to your brain and it allows you to get to where you need to go. So if you're like crossing your legs and you have to stop and grab the backs of your knees for a second, that will at least buy you some time to get to the loo. So this is just food for thought, and I thought I would share a few interesting things about the human brain and one very, very useful tip to not pee yourself in public. All right, thanks for joining me, Just Christina. Have a great day.